You are listening to Mining Stock Education.
Is this the tip of the iceberg that you're seeing kind of poke through that cover? Potentially, but what's most impressive is the grade. So the project's getting more exciting. These results are incredibly rare on the global copper scene to see this kind of grade coinciding with geophysics that really indicate the potential for something that could be what we would call globally significant or world-class as an opportunity.
Thanks for tuning in to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers. And in today's show, we're going to hear from our sponsor, Coppernico Metals, and its founder, chair, and CEO, Ivan Bebek. Ivan, thank you for coming on the show. It's good to talk to you. At the end of the day, Thursday, your shares were up as much as 40% today on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Reason being, at your Nioc target, you put out a press release stating you had 52 meters of over 1% copper, many other lengths of copper, and some zones that caught my attention. One was 6 meters at 2.2% copper. Zone 2 had 14 meters of 2.43% copper. You also had a 6-meter hit of almost 3% copper. So congratulations, and break down the meaning for this, please.
Yeah, great. It's this is an incredible project. We've been on this for a decade, and the time spent is not my concern. It's what we can do with the time next. One thing that's become extremely apparent to us, not just as an exploration company, but as a sector, is finding grade in magnitudes like this, these levels, or finding scale to go with grade in terms of the size of the targets we're seeing is incredibly rare. We assembled a district that is an analog to the Andahuaylas Yari famous copper belt, led by the largest mine there being Las Bambas. That's about number 11 in the world. And we believe we assembled the other half of that district. Recently, we optimized the land position. We cut it down to about 45,000 hectares from over 100. It's not about how much land you have. It's about having the right land. And that's certainly where we've put the company in that position. This target is not only important because it's in proximity to Fierrazo, where the historical drill holes that really gave the project a real big confidence boost early on exist, but it's also some of the richest samples we've seen to date over consecutive areas. The kind of samples we took were channel samples with a rock saw. So we actually cut rock to take these samples. We didn't dig trenches. We didn't move any dirt. There is quite a bit of cover in this area. There's small windows of rocks sticking out of the ground. And what we did was we just sampled it with the saw. When you look at the results, 50 meters of 1%, some of those 6 to 12 meters of higher grades that you mentioned, or there's also, I think, 93 meters of 0.87%. That's perpendicular to the other trenches or channel samples. We don't know the true direction of this target yet. The footprint underneath it that we've measured with geophysics, which is magnetic and chargeability, electrical currents into the ground, it's about 1.4 by 1.8 kilometers. This is a massive target. It advertised as a considerable bullseye. And what we see here as these early exploration results is we see some incredible grades and a lot of confidence that this could really have a chance to develop into something, substantial in the area. Sombrero is itself unique because of the scale and the amount of targets we're finding. We've announced the Antapampa target, the Tipicancha target. We are just getting some more results from Macha Machai. And we've also actually staked some new ground in the south. As much as we shed ground, we found some new outcrops that were extremely encouraging. And I don't know if these results today are going to be the best results off the project yet. Most of the property is covered by volcanic cover. That volcano erupted and the ash covered most of the rocks. But erosional windows through time have really opened up some really interesting targets like this. In an analogy of formation and what we visualize this as, is this the tip of the iceberg that you're seeing kind of poke through that cover? Potentially. But what's most impressive is the grade. And so if you look at the old rule of finding mines around the world, and we're timing extremely well with the commodity cycle, but grade has always been king and oxide has been queen. There is risk when you do see oxide mineralization that you have some enrichment at surface, but the really positive factor here in these results is you have sulfides with grade at surface as well as oxides. So it gives us a lot of confidence that this could be a very homogeneous, really good grade system in this part of the project. So early days, it's been a long haul. And a couple things that really stand out for us is we spent 10 years working on agriculture agricultural programs in the area, bringing red meat, livestock into the area so the communities can not only benefit from nutrition, but be able to sustain themselves and continue to create more and more agriculture at the 3,900 meters elevation where this exists. To date, we've employed over 100 workers from the communities, and those jobs are going to continue, and we're going to look to ramp up as we get more permits in the region. So the project's getting more exciting. These results are incredibly rare on the global copper scene to see this kind of grade parallel with or coinciding with geophysics that really indicate the potential for something that could be what we would call globally significant or world-class as an opportunity, just on the measurements being quite large. Obviously, it still needs to be drilled, but incredible results to date, and I think that's a big reason why the share price is starting to perform. From a company's perspective, we are still well-funded. We have capital through next June. We have a lot of optionality with additional fundings. We don't necessarily need to come back to your typical routes of financing. This project is gathering a lot of attention from a lot of major mining companies and a lot of astute investors. And so it's early days. The time's tough. The perseverance has been real to get to this point. But, regardless of what markets we are in or not, this kind of an asset of this caliber doesn't come by in a career. And the way this one is shaping up, it keeps getting better as we start to learn more and more about it.
So your analog is Las Bambas that you've talked about for this. So you've demonstrated scale with Sombrero. Now you're showing high grade at surface. In the development of Las Bambas, did they have some high grade hits at surface such as you're showing here?
Yeah, they have. If you look in our presentation, you can see that the majority of their project was outcropping. So there wasn't very much volcanic cover. And in our case, it's about a 90-10 rule. They have about 90% of their mineralization was exposed. So the discovery there was much more pronounced, much more obvious to be made. In the case here, which is why we even got to the opportunity, 90% of our surface exposure is covered and about 10% is exposed. So, it takes a lot of tenacity as a geologist, as an entrepreneur in the mining sector to bet heavy in an area where it's predominantly covered. But as we get these windows and we expand our access through these areas into these communities and create new partnerships, we're getting the ability to go and sample new areas. And so that's gone extremely well. I'm extremely impressed myself. I didn't expect the results to be this good. Nobody did on the team, even though it looked like a very robust area, but the consistency and the widths. And the last point I'll make about the results, we don't know if that stops at 52 meters wide. There's limited areas that we could sample, so that could go on extensively. All of the samples that we've taken are limited by the small rock windows that were exposed. The question that we're curious about is what lies beneath and beyond. If we expand those channel samples beyond those, do they go for 100 meters or more? And then what is the true direction? Is it going this direction, or is it going horizontal, or is it curving? And drilling is going to be what really shapes that up for us. So it's incredible in terms of grade, in terms of scale, and it's a really good injection of positivity into the project as we are about to announce some updates with our permitting and start to work towards our next drill program.
So what do you have to do to get the permits to put the drill in over here?
So there's some complexities there. We had to take care of a few things in the region, which you'll hear about shortly in the news, and we are completing all of those efforts. I'm not going to be specific for the basic part of just being simple that it's now complete. We will file the permit here momentarily, and we're not looking for our first permit in the region. We're looking for an expanded permit, and that's something to really take to home to understand. I'm not going to put a timeline of how long these permits may take to complete. We are going to do everything we can and leverage off of all the goodwill we've created, both socially as well as with the government on our previous permits, to see how much we can expedite this permitting process. But it's going to put the company in an incredible position with the timing of the commodity cycle to be going out and drilling underneath some of these spectacular channel samples, and also following up the holes on Fierrazo. Those are the next area that we're going to drill, where there's 230 meters of 0.5% copper on surface and 110 meters of about 0.6, 0.8% copper gold equivalent already in drill holes. So there's a lot of joy that we haven't tested yet. There's a lot of more obvious areas that are not covered that we haven't tested yet. That's going to be the story of the next 12 months for us. And permitting updates will come regularly, and we will hope to do them as soon as possible. But I don't have a fixed timeline yet. I just have a lot of confidence that expanding permits versus applying for new permits can go a lot smoother. And we're quite organized that way. We have a very good team in Peru. They've done an exceptional job to date. We've had very good permitting timelines. And so I think they're going to continue that, as well as the social presence has been really positive, and the agriculture programs we've done and the several new ones that we're about to undertake in the region. It's really become a great relationship and a partnership with both the local communities and the government. Everybody is participating here, and this project is starting to show us and remind us of why we spent so much time and why we're so patient with the scale of this opportunity and the grades that we see and the potential geological outcomes that could come from here.
You mentioned you're funded through next June. As a means of funding the company in the future, would you consider giving away a piece of the Sombrero project? You mentioned the majors have their eyes on it, especially after today's results.
Yeah, well, Newmont and Teck are shareholders. Teck's 9.9. They're the largest shareholder of the company. We're not in any rush right now, or we don't see any need to go out and do that. Our cost of this project is quite manageable in terms of carrying claim costs and everything else. So we don't need huge amount of capital to reveal and create a tremendous amount of value. The next drill program is not going to cost a lot, but the impact will be substantial for shareholders, and it's going to time perfectly with the commodity cycle. I'm never sensitive towards commodity cycles if we have grade and scale, because you can make money in any market with a very good discovery. However, when it comes down to financing and dilution, there's two factors there. Dilution is punitive if you don't have the right shareholders. We've attracted some incredible shareholders, including Teck in our last financing, and that's going to really help us in how we perform going forward. The second part about it is the project is big enough, the swings are rare enough that it has global attention from all the miners of consequence in copper and gold, and everyone's paying attention. So, I'm sure there'll be more optionality there if we do get to a point where we want to take more capital. But right now, we don't need any more capital. We actually could drill in the first quarter with our current treasury enough holes to really improve the understanding and reveal the discovery over at the Fierrazo target, and then put us in a position to finance with near-term dilutables being in the money here soon. So a lot of options there, not worried about financing whatsoever, more curious about the next wave of results that come from some new targets, the next wave of sampling that happens at this target that we just sampled on, as well as the pace of permits, which we'll have a lot better indication of in about 30 days of how quickly that's going to come together. So it's been a wait, and I thank everyone for their patience, shareholders who've stuck with us and stakeholders in the communities. It's been an honor to work with them. As far as, the opportunity, it's getting better. The results are getting better, and the scale of things are getting bigger. So it's timing perfectly for us. Well worth the wait, no matter how difficult it may have been. In my shoes, the perseverance gear that we're known for and the patience we've had, it's still been more than worth it. And a news release like today really elevates that.
Even if there's some waiting for future permits, you said in our last interview that you want to have drilling around all year, and you said you were going after some projects in the United States. Is there any updates you can provide?
Yeah, so we've looked extensively, and we looked extensively with Keenan, who is still on our board till September 15th, and we've got our picks out there. My view of the capital markets and what's happening in the commodity cycle, it's percolating for juniors. You're starting to see really good flows. You're seeing financings get done, capital's being raised, and from that perspective, I think it's a really wise time to be transactional. Obviously, we're going to watch dilution and be intelligent about the kind of deals that we do, but acquiring a few really high profile tier one type of assets in the US at this stage would really complement our portfolio, give us a lot of optionality to keep the drill turning year round, and create a lot of growth for shareholders. So this is the last transactional window I think we can act on, being this quarter, and put the company in a position to win in several ways and mitigate any kind of permitting delays if they continue. However, I am very bullish on the permitting process and the next wave of permits. I think it's going to go quite well and put us in a position that times perfectly with the commodity cycle and the markets that we're seeing improve as you and I are speaking here today.
Ivan, in terms of the carry cost for Sombrero, you put out a press release that you're optimizing and rationalizing your land holdings. Can you elaborate on that? And also, what is the cost savings to the company?
Yeah, it's about $250,000 of cost savings a year in US dollars. So that's a big savings amount. But to my comment earlier, it's not about how much land you own. It's about having the right land to own in the region. And so until we got our access at the first community, we were not actively exploring in the region due to cost efficiencies and capital and waiting before we had proper presence. And since we've gotten that access, not only did we drill the first few holes and confirm a big scarm system to be present, and obviously the results today, but we've had a chance to go and optimize and decide which claims would fit the best for us geologically, as well as socially as areas we could get access to. And there's a few things that are in the background that we're starting to work on here in the next few months. And I would say they have a potential to be as compelling as Fierrazo and Nioc. So it's truly first movers on a very, very big thesis that we'd be extending a major copper gold belt in Peru, one of the largest ones in the world, with analogs drawing to Las Bambas and other of the mines that exist next door. And we're seeing early indications that scale and grade can be present. And that's something that's incredibly difficult to find, whether you're a junior and a major. Our goodwill with the communities and the government is starting to pay dividends with us. And the relationship's really grown a lot. And the benefit is mutual and it's sustainable for both sides. So there's a really good partnership that's growing there, and we're extremely excited about revealing the pipeline as it goes forward. In the U.S., Trump's in the U.S. doing the right things with the mining business, and he's pushing towards bringing projects online. This is the greenest flag you could look for of a reason, whether you are American-based, Canadian-based, or European-based, to consider looking for assets. And I know several mid-tiers and majors are really hunting assets in the U.S. as well. If you get in the right jurisdiction in the U.S., I mean, you can drive to the project and you could come there with your family and visit it. And that's something that will give tremendous value to the upside in terms of profitability or marketability because of the low geopolitical risk that you face in some of these other jurisdictions. We love Peru because of the scale and the endowment potential. The Peru's challenge is very, very public. It's just time. It's slow, but the kind of things that you can find there can make the top 10 or 20 mines in the world, and that's something encouraging there. One of our directors, Antonio Ribas, who is the former VP of Geosciences for BHP, he lives in Texas, and he was commenting in a recent board meeting that there's incredible opportunities in the U.S. for tier one assets in certain parts of the U.S. And it's complementing our efforts to complement Sombrero with second and third assets in the U.S. to really give us a very loaded portfolio prior to this market turning. We tried that portfolio approach with Oren. If you remember back in the day, the company went off the board at $3.20 per share with 100 million shares out. That was good value as we put together a series of projects. Fury was spun out. It had a tough go with the markets until the last week here as they put out a PA on Eau Claire. It's up, I think, about 40% here in the week. It's doing extremely well finally. And then Coppernico is starting to lift. And we've got some big plans for Tier 1 Silver, which are coming together, which were all spun out of a portfolio. I'm not looking to repeat more spincos. We certainly have enough companies, but I'm looking for tier one assets that fit with good management teams and a market that could reward shareholders and give us a lot of capital to go and explore those. When you look at our sector and where it is or where it was, and you look at how few tier one assets exist and how much capital is going to come into our sector, the anxiety is going to shift from, can I raise enough money to drill these things, to what do I do with all this money? Where do we drill? And that's something that I've been very vigilant about in the background with all my companies, all my management teams, was to make sure we had some of the best assets we could get before the market turned and cash was extremely readily available, because the money doesn't make the company succeed. It's the asset, and that's what draws in good people, and that's what draws in share price performance. So seeing Sombrero starting to turn some very, very big corners in terms of these results, as well as the potential outcome of several other targets and permit advancements, it's a very, very exciting time to really get involved in the company and follow its progress.
All right, the company again is Coppernico Metals. Ticker symbol is COPR on the big board in Toronto, and on the OTCQB, you can find it under the ticker CPPMF. Ivan, thank you for coming on the show and providing this update.
Thank you for having me.